getting ready to put some sealer on our lure. In fact, I'm going to put them on all of the lures. I thought I'd show you how to mix it. So this is auto-borne sealer, made in the USA. It's 6,000 transparent sealer, which I'll be using. And as a reducer, they'd like you to put in 15 to 20% of this stuff. This 4001 Auto Air Color High Temp Reducer. So, what you do, of course, is shake the heck out of it at first. Now this is the airbrush I'll be using. It has a fairly small reservoir, so that's why I'm using the cup. Well, that should be enough for all of the lures. They really don't take that much. Now I'm going to add a little bit of the reducer. I like to keep a cup of water handy and use a brush to do all my mixing. Okay, so we're going to get ready to put on a little bit of the sealer. Test it out a little bit. I've already put a little bit in the holder. There we go. Very simple. And that's it. I had to retake this. I kind of got it out of frame the first time, so anyway, that's as simple as it is. Now we're going to let it dry for 30-40 minutes, or I could use the heat gun and speed it up. So each of these 4 lures has now had a single coat of epoxy, and also they've had a coat of sealer. So the paint is designed to adhere to the sealer. So the next thing we have to do is, I'll use this sample here, we need to put a white belly onto the bottom of the lure. So I'm going to use this one, which is the one with the double gill, and you can tell this is where that seam has been, where the 2 pieces of foil have come together. Now, because they've had one coat of epoxy, and I've sanded this with 1000 grit, it should be in good shape to receive a little bit of white paint. So this is the paint I'm going to be using. It's Craytex Opaque White, and I thought that I would show you how I mix my paint. If I was to take this paint and put it into my airbrush, I'd be lucky to get a little bit of spray out of it, and then it would plug up. This paint is too thick, and that's by design. So what I need to use is this 411 reducer. Now the problem is, how do you consistently add the reducer to a point where it reliably works through the airbrush? I thought I would take this opportunity to show how I mix my paint. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's even the right way. It's the way that I have used for 4 or 5 years now, and it's worked quite well. So I start out, I always have a glass of water and a brush handy. I go to the dollar store and I buy some of these shot glasses, and I think it works out to about 10 cents for that cup. Then of course you shake the bejeebers out of the paint. Now, one of the advantages of mixing your paint like this is I'm going to mix a fair bit of paint, because I need a fair bit of paint. I've got those 4 lures that I need to put those bellies on, and I've seen people mix their paints right into bowls, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just that for me, this gives me an opportunity to test the viscosity, and I'll show you what I mean by that here in just a second. So I take a goodly amount of paint, and now the recommendation is about 15 to 25% of reducer. So I put in some reducer, and then I use my paintbrush to mix it up. Now, the question is, what is the viscosity of the reducer and the paint? And the way I figure that out is I take a clear piece of the shot glass and I put the loaded paintbrush on the side of it. Now, if it's too thick, it doesn't run very well down the side. See how that paint runs down the side? I hope the camera can see this. Right now I notice that I need to add a little bit more. I'm going to try and show it this way. You see how slowly that runs down the side? This is just about ready. Now this is just a visual way, but it does work pretty good. See how that runs down the side like that? So this is ready to go. So now I have to get my hook ready. I always start out by putting a little bit of water into the airbrush. It just makes everything flow quite well. Also, I have to check the air pressure. I usually spray about 15 times, and I pour a little bit in. Now I'm ready to go. Now, must remind you to always wash your hands before handling the hook. The oil on your fingers can be quite annoying. And now I'm just going to spray along here, very gently. tiny bit of splatter right here. Just means there's too much paint there. Can repair that just by daubing a little bit of the paint off. My cat is annoyed that she is not my focus. She wants to get in the shot. That's pretty good. So I'm going to go on to do the other three. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to apply paint where this blue is, and it's going to go right across here. And what we're going to have to do, even though there's the sealer coat on it, we're going to have to give it a little bit of paint, dry it off, a little bit more paint, dry it off, and lots of paint layers, because we're going to be using this Createx transparent paint, and this is a ultramarine blue. Now, one of the joys of using transparent is this is as dark as it will ever get, which is pretty dark. So in order to get it darker, you need multiple layers. Now, a complicating factor is the fact that you're spraying over top of a very light background, very silvery, and it could take 6, 8, 10 coats. Whatever it takes, it takes. And what you do is you put on one coat and you dry it off. You put on another coat and you dry it off until you get the depth of the blue that you're looking for. So I've mixed the paint as we have or as I have showed you earlier. I've loaded my airbrush. You're going to also need a little piece of cardboard, because you're going to try and shield everything down here from spray. So let's give it a try. Here we go. Now you want to do right over the eye. And right off the bat, it looks like you really didn't get any paint on here. But you have to have trust in the method. So that looks to be about as deep blue as I want it. I'm going to flip this little frame around and do the other side. But you can kind of see what's coming next. It's going to be a dark back. So I'm going to do the back of this lure. This is a 6-inch lure. I'm also going to do a 5-inch lure in the same color. And you'll notice a little later on you're going to get some nice dots and some colored fins and some red, but that's all to come. But right now that this lure is ready to dry for, I like to dry them for several hours. This little frame works really great because with this set of forceps I can move this around to anywhere I want to get just the perfect angle for spraying with the airbrush. So the next time you see this lure, we're going to be getting ready to put the dark back on it, and it's going to probably be a very, very deep blue. So we are ready to put the dark back on this lure, and what I've done is I've mixed some paint. I don't mix paint that often, but I'm not using Craytex for this because they don't have this nice Admiral Blue. This is an Admiral Blue 21-484 apple barrel. Now this is available at one of the bigger box stores. It could be Walmart, it could be a variety of other places, even dollar store. And I've mixed it with Wicked colors, which are a type of Craytex color, and this is actually Wicked Jet Black. And one of the important things to understand about these paints when they're mixed together, neither of them is a transparent paint, so it's going to cover relatively quickly, and you just got to keep, you don't want to hit it too hard with too much paint, and just be careful because it's a different paint. And when you're painting with the transparent paints, you can make, you can put 10 coats on or 11 coats on, and it doesn't matter that much. This stuff is going to be very, very opaque. Okay, I've got my air compressor on. Here's the paint that I've mixed. I've also made myself a little tool. This is going to go around the eyes, and I know Greg Budd, he does this by hand, but I need a template because I'm not as steady as that. Okay, so we're ready to go. I'm going to put, like I normally do, a little bit of water in the airbrush. Get everything going. Into the water out of it. And I've made quite a bit because I'm going to actually save some. I've got an extra container here, and you'll see later on I'm going to need a little bit of extra, so the chances of me mixing this exact same color are pretty small, so I keep a little bit extra. Again, I want to use cardboard to protect areas that I don't want covered. So for example, I don't want covered this nice deep blue that I painted. It's not that deep, but you'll see that this is actually going to be quite a bit darker. So let's try it out. So it seems to have blended in very nicely. I'm going to try that eyeball. Now, you got to be careful. You got to realize that that paint is pretty soft on the lure. And you don't want to put your template touching the lure, because you'll scrape some paint off your attack. I'm going to turn this around a little bit just so I can kind of get a better shot at it. I'm going to rest against this thing. This is just a support. And there you've got a pretty nice, oh, maybe a bit more top here. And this side is now done. So once I do the back side, again with the ring around the eye, and that has dried, this guy is ready for a second coat of epoxy. Now the second coat of epoxy is important because it's going to cover up what you've got so far, which is good, and protect it. So the next stage of this lure is going to be, after the coat of epoxy, is putting on some of these details. Now these little details can be, some are relatively easy, but you would be surprised how many little mistakes you can make. So for example, if this dot runs and I've got to wipe it off, I can do that if the background is epoxy. But if I was to do that onto the existing paint right now, it would damage that coating of paint. So I don't think Greg does this, but this is a trick I learned from an ex-wife who used to make Ukrainian Easter eggs, and she'd always say, "Oh, you got to protect what you've done right." So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. The next stage after this, next time you see this lure, it will in fact have had a second coating of epoxy, and it will have had its eyeballs glued in. So then after that, we're going to go through some of the procedures to do this little detail. Now I think this little bit of detail really makes the lure look fabulous. So I'm going to be very careful with that, and gotta make sure to do it right. But right now we are done the majority of the big painting, and we're going to get ready to do some epoxy work. So that's what you're going to see next time. You're going to see this lure with its eyes glued in and another coat